Next, from the state capitol, Representative Mike Zalewski discusses proposed changes to Illinois' criminal justice system that will give lighter sentences to nonviolent offenders. This runs about 5 minutes.
State Representative Mike Zalewski, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. You had proposed to make some changes to the Illinois criminal justice laws, and we wanted to hear a little bit more about that and why you thought these changes were necessary.
Well, what I've done is propose a joint committee of House members and Senate members to study the issue of sentencing and disparities in the sentencing code to make sure that we have a wholesale restructuring of our sentencing in Illinois. We have too many people that are sitting in prisons that shouldn't be in prisons. Meanwhile, violent offenders are able to escape incarceration because we don't have the resources to put them in prison. So my goal is to have a new conversation about what we're doing to be smart on crime.
I'm surmising so that, the typical example given is that maybe someone's in prison who had a joint of marijuana or something in the past. They're nonviolent, and so we're letting the violent people out. How representative is that, and what brought this issue to your attention?
Yeah, it's not so much that they were letting them out, is that they're never able to get in the first place because we sort of have this bottleneck situation where we're unable to do enhancements here in the General Assembly because our prisons are so overcrowded. Now, there's a variety of reasons why members are reluctant to do enhancements, but what we shouldn't have happen.
Can I ask, when you say enhancements, what do we mean?
Tougher penalties for crimes like guns and gun crimes and drug crimes. So what I want to do is say, let's reshape the conversation. Let's make sure that we're devoting our resources to truly the worst of the worst. And if there's people that deserve alternative forms of punishment, that we can address that within the statute.
Would it be just on a going forward basis, or would you review some of those who are currently in the prisons to let the ones who are serving time, maybe for a nonviolent crime, out?
I think we would have to do this prospectively going forward.
Now, everyone's focused on the end of the legislative session as we're here on May the 20th, but you're really looking at, I think, having a commission and studying this, and then maybe actually writing something into law from the basis of that study?
The goal is to have some hearings and take testimony, do a real data-driven approach to who's being incarcerated for what, and come back with a report by the end of the year and hopefully have some legislation soon thereafter.
When we talk about guns for a moment, of course, gun crimes, and there's so many murders taking place, the illegal use of guns, but one of the concerns, I think, from the gun lobby that you've probably, I'm sure, heard, if someone is traveling across country and they're carrying a gun, and maybe it's legal in, Wyoming, and they're pulled over, and maybe they're in violation of Illinois law, would we have a exemption for those kind of instances?
Well, right now, if they don't have a valid FOID card, they're guilty of our aggravated UUW statute. Now, they can present evidence in their defense that this was a mistake or something that happened inadvertently, but we obviously have that glaring problem with the law of responsible gun owners saying we don't want to be punished for regulatory offenses. We need to have a wholesale discussion about, again, all of our sentencing policies and whether they make sense in the 21st century.
Now, we had talked, and not to keep you too long, but is one of the issues that there is not a fair application of the law across socioeconomic issues?
I think the issue is we've always enhanced these crimes in an effort to be tough on crime and good public servants and responsive to our constituents, and we've never taken a step back and said, is this really all making sense as part of a broader picture? That hasn't really happened in the last 10 to 15 years. That's the conversation I want to have.
And then just as far as do you know offhand what our prisons are full, or are we spending much more on corrections these days than we were before?
My sense is our prisons are at capacity, and we need to really address that capacity issue before a federal judge tells us we have to.
All right, and then lastly, this commission, the hearings would begin about when?
Hopefully in June. That still has to pass the House and the Senate, and the members have to be appointed. So my goal is to just get the conversation started and hopefully start sooner than later.
All right. Representative, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
The Illinois Channel's coverage of the state legislature is underwritten by the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association.